As you can imagine, my phone has been ringing off the hook from students seeking to learn how to use a firearm. The events of October 7th shook us all, and understandably so. It's no secret that the lunatics who perpetrated these atrocities made it their life mission to kill every Jew, Israeli, Christian, American, and supporter of Israel and make the entire world an Islamic state ruled by Sharia law. That's an ambitious plan and one they will never stop pursuing. Israel may be the biggest priority, but it's only the beginning. If that's the case, who's next and how likely is it to be realized? Hi, I'm Joe Yeager, certified instructor and founder of Executive Gun, where safe and responsible gun ownership begins. On November 9th, 1938, Nazi persecution of Jews, Jewish businesses, and institutions turned violent. Almost 100 Jews were killed in Germany and Austria. Synagogues, homes, and businesses were vandalized and torched, and 30,000 Jews were arrested and sent to concentration camps. That date in history is called Kristallnacht, or Night of Broken Glass. The Holocaust was officially on, which ignited World War II. By the end of the war in 1945, 6 million Jews, a third of the world's Jewish population at the time, was exterminated. The worldwide death toll of the war was approximately 15 million military and 45 million civilians. That's not including the 25 million or so wounded during the conflict. What was started as a local conflict in Germany and Austria quickly spread to all of Europe, Asia Pacific, and Africa. German submarines reached U.S. shores too, and Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. That was over 80 years ago. The capabilities today are exponentially greater for any organization with enough determination to cause chaos and significant number of casualties. And the maniacs we're dealing with today are most certainly determined and are well-financed and supported by other great powers who hate democracy all the same. Back then, Germans were indoctrinated into Nazism, just like Palestinians in the region are being indoctrinated into jihad and martyrdom. Germany was reeling from economic ruin after World War I, and Hitler gave them a sense of hope and pride again. Palestinians are reeling from economic ruin too. Gaza gets more financial aid than any other part of the world, yet their unemployment rate is almost 50%. Why? Because terrorist groups rule Gaza, and instead of bringing hope and pride and using the billions of dollars in aid for improving Gazans' lives, they use it to enrich their leaders and build a war machine that brings nothing but misery to Gazans. Of course, that creates desperation and fear. So Gazans have a choice. Join a terrorist group and get 3 meals a day, virgins in heaven, and the promise of financial relief for your family, or stay desperate. Hitler famously said that to conquer a nation, you must first disarm its population. That was one of the first things he did under the guise of reducing crime and hunting accidents and keeping the population safe. He created a gun registry, which ultimately led to every gun owned by a Jew to be confiscated. From there, it was easy pickings. Palestinians too, unless part of the ruling terror groups, are also unarmed so as not to pose a threat to the barbaric ruling authorities. Instead, they are ruled with an iron fist and being used as human shields. Germany signed a non-aggression pact with Poland in 1935 and invaded Poland in 1939. What started as a local war against Jews, gays, gypsies, and the disabled became a global war that ended up in a nuclear conclusion. Israel evacuated Gaza completely in 2005 and left the Palestinians to govern themselves. They elected Hamas in 2007, and they made it their mission to terrorize Israel with suicide bombings and murderous infiltrations ever since. The current unrest in the Middle East is escalating and is turning into a regional conflict. Global powers on both sides are at a ready to intervene. World War III is hanging by a thread. Back then, a nuclear bomb had to be flown and dropped over a target. Today, it's a push of a button, far more powerful, and can reach every corner of the globe in minutes. Make no mistake, if nations like Iran and its proxies possess nuclear weapons, they wouldn't hesitate to use it on Israel and its allies, even if that means dying themselves and killing every Palestinian in the area. This must never be allowed to happen. Hitler blamed the Jews for everything that went wrong in Germany, and made it his mission to wipe the Jewish people off the face of the earth. Terror groups in the Middle East all have the same objective. Hitler wanted an Aryan race worldwide. Muslim religious extremists want a world ruled by Islam, but the ISIS, Taliban, and Hamas version of it. After World War II, the world said, never again. Germany was stripped of its military capabilities and split into two. However, that led to the whole of Europe being split into East and West. The Cold War began. Over the next few decades, Western Europe focused on de-radicalizing Nazism, rebuilding, and prospered. Captured Nazi officers were brought to trial and executed. Escaped Nazi officers were hunted down worldwide, and those found faced the same fate. Eastern Europe, on the other hand, chose communism and resorted to oppression and control. It eventually collapsed, and Eastern Europe began a resurgence. Israel was granted sovereignty in 1948 and was given the most arid land in the region, yet it managed to become the most productive and advanced nation in the Middle East in every respect. The surrounding countries spend more time and resources on trying to destroy Israel than on cultivating and elevating their economy. As a result, none are a true democracy, economically viable, or militarily superior to the tiny nation of Israel. And now, finally, after decades of failing to destroy Israel, several of them realize that having peace with Israel is an option they should have chosen to begin with. The comparisons can go on, but hopefully it is now obvious that history is repeating itself, and we must not brush it off and expect world governments to handle it. They won't, unless we, the people, hold them accountable. So, are we next? Well, in my opinion, absolutely. If the cries for destruction of Israel worldwide and the ongoing attacks against its allies isn't alarming enough to alert you that this is serious, get your head out of the sand. The attacks of October 7th are evidence of how emboldened and more sophisticated terrorists have become. They planned the attacks for 2 years. Their supporters and sleeper cells are well entrenched in many democratic countries. To think that they will not attempt the same in other places is wishful thinking. Their hate is ever growing, and their followers are in plain sight and louder than ever. To dispute any of it is sheer denial and apathy. We must learn from history and insist relentlessly on never again. When international organizations like the UN fail to condemn Hamas and company for the atrocities they commit time and time again, it is clear that they cannot be relied upon to protect us, never mind bring the perpetrators to justice. Furthermore, giving up our firearms under any guise is non-negotiable. It will only weaken us as a society and leave us vulnerable to both extremists and elitists who wish to turn us into obedient subjects with few privileges rather than a free people with inalienable rights. The price of eradicating evil is high no matter what, but we cannot sit idle and let another maniacal and merciless regime expend in numbers or rhetoric without taking necessary steps to defend ourselves in our communities when such evil shows up at our homes, as they did at the homes of the October 7th victims. It is not only our legal right to defend ourselves, it is our duty. We can do a lot to minimize the impact of evildoers. We can vote for leaders who genuinely believe in our free way of life, put their citizens first, and won't cower and pander to illegal immigrants and terrorists. We cannot do that if we give away our right to keep and bear arms and become sitting ducks like the innocent victims of October 7th. I guarantee you, nor the police nor the military will show up at the moment you're victimized. You and you alone will be your only chance. And if you're not adequately equipped and trained, don't expect to rise to the occasion and scare them away. These savages are not your run-of-the-mill gangbangers from the hood. The good news is that there is hope and a solution to this problem. It's ugly and costly, but it must be done. Just like Nazi Germany, kamikaze Japan, and fascist Italy were beaten, so must terrorist groups be destroyed, their leaders hunted down and brought to justice. Just like they were de-radicalized, so must those who are under their spell be de-radicalized and taught to love life, tolerate differences, and peacefully coexist, rather than learn to hate, play victim, and glorify death. Just like Germany, Japan, and Italy became some of the most productive nations in the world, so can Palestinians in Gaza, the West Bank, and other territories become productive and peaceful members of the world if given a chance to be ruled by a government that actually cares about them and gives them opportunity. The price to achieve this has already been too high and will likely continue to be. Until then, we must stay aware, armed, and ready for the possibility that we will be next. If you enjoy this video, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and watch the next video right here. Train hard, often, and safely, and I'll see you at the range.